Have you ever longed to be truly unshakable? Someone who doesn't flinch in the face of criticism, rejection, loss, or betrayal? Have you ever fantasized about the moment when you would finally stop carrying that deep, gnawing pain inside? The kind of torment that lingers no matter how confident or brave you appear on the outside. Maybe you're weary from constantly trying to meet others' expectations and from wearing the mask of invincibility, when all you really crave is a fleeting moment of peace from the overwhelming pressure to stay untouchable. But here's a truth many shy away from acknowledging. As long as you keep running from pain, it will continue to hold power over you. As long as you continue to numb, protect, or hide yourself, you are trapped by hurtful words, by actions that disappoint, by silences that cut deeper than any physical wound. This is not a sign of weakness. It's the reality of being human. And while some are better at hiding it, everyone carries this within them. Carl Jung, one of the most influential figures in depth psychology, famously said, "We are not what happens to us, but what we choose to become." This is the crux of it. It's not about building walls to shield yourself from the world, becoming emotionally detached, or pretending you're impervious to pain. True strength lies in integration, bringing into the light the parts of yourself that have been locked away in the shadows. Strength isn't about having no pain. It's about being fully aware of who you are, even when you're broken. If you've made it this far, I'm speaking to you, the one who's exhausted from carrying wounds that only seem to multiply, the one who feels constantly on the back foot, as though everyone else holds some kind of power over your peace of mind. I want to show you that this doesn't have to be your unchangeable reality. But in order to transform, you must first confront the difficult truths. And perhaps, for the first time, it's that pain that can set you free. You may think the source of your pain lies outside of you, in someone's harsh words, in betrayals that came from nowhere, or in the abandonment that left you isolated. But here's the harsh truth: none of these external forces can truly hurt you unless there is already a wound inside you that they are touching. What really causes you pain is not what others do. It's how those experiences activate old wounds within you. Unresolved trauma, the stories you keep telling yourself, the hollow space you try to fill with pride, and the desperate desire to appear put together. Jung's teachings suggest that external pain is simply a reflection of what remains unhealed within. This is why some people can endure devastation and emerge with clarity, while others crumble at the slightest criticism. It's not about what happens to you, it's about how it resonates with what remains unhealed in your soul. Here's another tough pill to swallow. Your suffering runs deep because on some level, you still believe you can control how the world treats you. You keep striving to be good enough, smart enough, strong enough, understanding enough, believing that if you meet these expectations, you'll somehow be shielded from pain. But control is nothing but an illusion. As long as you cling to this belief, you live in a state of constant tension, trying to anticipate the unpredictable, avoid the unavoidable. If you truly want to end the cycle of suffering, stop running from it. What you need isn't more control over your circumstances, it's more awareness. As long as you believe that other people need to change in order for you to stop feeling pain, you will remain trapped by their actions. Your true freedom begins the moment you realize that nothing external has power over you unless it finds an echo inside of you, and that, the realm you cannot see, is the real battlefield, the unconscious. What you don't understand, what you've suppressed or ignored, will end up mastering you. In the next phase, we'll delve into this hidden world, because real transformation happens when you face it head on. The greatest misconception you've been fed is that you control your own life, because in truth, you don't. Not if you continue living on autopilot, reacting without understanding why, feeling emotions without grasping their origin, making decisions only to later undermine them. Jung's words ring true here. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is exactly what is happening. The pain you experience, the sudden bursts of anger, the deep sadness that seems to appear from nowhere. These are not random. They are messages from the parts of you that have been buried, forgotten, or repressed. To truly begin your healing journey, you must look inward, confront the hidden parts of yourself, and stop pretending that they don't exist. Only then will you step into the fullness of your power. Jung called this dark territory the unconscious, and it's no vague cloud of thoughts. It's a dynamic, intricate system of memories, traumas, desires, and fears that you refuse to confront, yet which continue to dictate your feelings, behaviors, and decisions. It's like a shadow that follows you, shaping your reactions and interactions, even when you're unaware of its presence. You wonder why certain words devastate you, while others hardly leave a mark. Because those words are not just mere triggers, but echoes of deep-seated wounds you've buried, yet never fully healed. These wounds, which you thought you could forget, still influence you in ways you can't easily control. You've merely swept them under a psychological rug, but no matter how much you try to ignore them, they remain. They hide in the corners of your mind, waiting for a moment to resurface, tripping you up when you least expect it. Jung warned, we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation doesn't liberate, it oppresses. Yet most of your life has been spent judging, repressing, and silencing parts of yourself, as if pretending those parts don't exist will somehow make them go away. But the unconscious is not something that can be simply wished away. It doesn't vanish just because you refuse to acknowledge it. It only takes more insidious forms. It emerges in toxic relationships, self-sabotaging patterns, or even sudden bursts of anxiety that seem to come out of nowhere, especially when life appears to be going fine. This isn't some arbitrary misfortune or a result of bad luck. It's your unconscious mind trying desperately to wake you up. It's calling you to confront what you've long avoided, but you'd rather stay asleep, buried in your denial. If you truly want to be immune to hurt, you need to stop running from what lies within. As long as your unconscious remains a mystery to you, you remain its puppet, and no matter how much you try to shield yourself from external pain, you will only make yourself more vulnerable to the inner turmoil that will not be ignored. The more you attempt to protect yourself from the outside world, the more your inner world will demand attention. There is a way out, and it's not through resistance, but through integration. Becoming untouchable doesn't mean building impenetrable walls around yourself. It means developing a deep understanding of who you are. It's not about constructing a fortress, but about coming to terms with the full complexity of your being. The kind of strength that makes you unshaken doesn't come from defensiveness. It's a product of wholehearted acceptance, a radical embrace of your shadows, your fears, your flaws, and your vulnerabilities. True emotional resilience comes from knowing yourself fully, not just the parts you want to show the world, but also the parts you've hidden away. Most people mistakenly believe that the only way to avoid pain is by closing off, building emotional walls, wearing masks, or developing layers of armor that make them appear invulnerable. I don't care anymore, they say, but in truth, they care deeply. Inside, they're bleeding, corroding, deteriorating, because the real issue isn't about not feeling. It's about not understanding what they feel or why they feel it. That disconnect only happens when you're unaware of your own emotional landscape, when you don't know who you really are beneath the surface. Jung was precise. Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul. That hidden, vulnerable self you hide behind your masks of control and invulnerability. It's crying out to be seen, to be accepted. Only when you allow yourself to be fully human, flaws and all, can you begin to experience true freedom. True emotional strength has nothing to do with coldness or detachment, with denying pain or pretending indifference. It's about integration, the process of bringing everything you've buried into the light. You don't become untouchable by erecting barriers. You become untouchable when you embrace what's already within you. By integrating the hidden parts of yourself, by accepting your shadows, your flaws, your vulnerabilities, you stop reacting to life unconsciously. You stop being driven by impulses that are beyond your control. You begin to choose your responses, and that is where true freedom lies. Jung called this transformative process individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are, not who society expects you to be, not who you've convinced yourself you had to become in order to fit in, but who you were always meant to be in the interplay of your conscious self and unconscious forces. Individuation is not about achieving perfection, it's about integration, integrating your light and your shadow, your strengths and your weaknesses. You don't need to become a better person. You need to become a whole person. Here's the secret no one tells you. The more you run from pain, the more it chases you. The more you attempt to be unaffected by life's challenges, the more fragile you become. But when you face your wounds, when you embrace everything about yourself, both the beautiful and the ugly, the noble and the shameful, no external force can shake you. This path requires immense courage, the courage to look within, to abandon the masks, to feel deeply even when it's uncomfortable. It's only by facing pain head-on that you unlock the key to transformation. Far from being an enemy, suffering becomes the gateway to your true strength. Let's explore this deeper and find out why what you've been avoiding all along is precisely what will set you free. From the very beginning, you were conditioned to avoid pain. You were taught that suffering is a weakness, that vulnerability is something to hide, that feeling too much makes you exposed, fragile, so you learn to run, to deny, to avoid. But the more you flee from it, the more suffering shifts into other forms: anxiety, anger, apathy, self-destructive tendencies that you can't even recognize as such. Ignored pain doesn't disappear. It festers, it tunnels inside you, building pressure until eventually it collapses everything you've built. Jung viewed suffering differently. He saw it as a messenger of the soul, an alarm from the unconscious, a language through which your true self tries to communicate with you. Depression is like a lady in black, he said. If she appears, don't push her away, invite her in, offer her coffee, and listen to what she has to say. Instead of embracing this invitation, most of us silence our pain, distract ourselves, numb ourselves, doing everything possible to avoid confronting what truly matters. What is this pain trying to tell me? What wisdom can I gain from this suffering? Only by embracing this inquiry can you start to transform pain into strength and begin to truly heal. The truth is, suffering cuts so deeply because at its core, you are at war with yourself. One part of you longs for growth, for progress, for the next chapter of your life. Yet another part of you clings desperately to the way things have always been. That internal friction is the birthplace of pain, because growth is not easy. Change isn't painless. Letting go hurts, cutting toxic ties is painful, and allowing the old, broken parts of yourself to die is an agonizing process. But in this very pain, in this mourning, there's also the possibility of rebirth. It's an internal transformation, one that mirrors the natural cycle of death and life. It's in these moments of destruction, when everything you thought you knew crumbles, that something new can emerge, something truer, something more aligned with your authentic self. When you are stripped of all your defenses, when your certainties shatter, when the layers of pretense are peeled away, you are left face to face with your most raw and vulnerable form. And that is where you begin to see who you truly are, not the image you've spent years crafting, not the mask you wear for the world to see, but the real, unfiltered you. In this moment, suffering becomes sacred. It no longer feels like an enemy, but a guide that leads you toward freedom. It brings you to your knees, not in defeat, but in humble recognition of the power within you to overcome. Because it is through this suffering that you can reconnect with your truest self. Jung understood that suffering is not a failure of the system, but rather an integral part of the human process. Pain is not the end. It's the beginning of a deep journey, the journey toward individuation. Many people abandon this path when they encounter the darkness that lives within them. They retreat, distract themselves, and choose the easy way out. But if you've made it this far, you are ready to continue forward. In the next phase of this journey, we'll explore how this crossing from darkness into light happens and why the difficult, often lonely path of individuation is the one that ultimately brings you the freedom you've been searching for. It's getting deeper now. Few have the courage to even start the process of individuation. Even fewer have the fortitude to see it through to completion. This path is not for the faint-hearted. It offers no comfort, no guarantees, and certainly no protection for your ego. It will shatter it. Jung described individuation as the process of unlearning everything you think you know about yourself. And that is one of the most painful experiences you will ever endure. You will begin to see that many of the things you once identified with, your achievements, your traumas, the image you've carefully constructed to gain love and admiration, are all illusions. These were survival mechanisms, ways you protected yourself, but they were never truly you. And while surviving is necessary, it is not the same as living. Individuation is the call of life that calls you beyond mere survival to something far more expansive, a life that is yours, in its fullest expression. Individuation is when the unconscious mind begins to push all that has been repressed, hidden, or distorted to the surface. It demands that you dismantle your persona, the social mask you wear to navigate the world. Jung called it a mask of collective convenience, and the process of individuation requires you to tear off that mask. To uncover who you really are, you have to strip away all the layers that have been placed there by society, by others, and by yourself. Only when you undergo this process do you become untouchable, not because you've built walls to protect yourself from harm, but because you have faced the fire. You've confronted your deepest fears, the monsters that haunt your subconscious, and you've looked them in the eye. You've stared down your shame, your neediness, and your anger, and you've declared, "I see you, and you no longer control me." It is through this inner clarity, this new lucidity in the face of your own darkness, that you gain a strength unlike anything you've ever known. It's a strength that transcends the need for approval, recognition, or control. You no longer need to be loved by everyone, to win every battle, or to present a flawless image of yourself. Why? Because you now know who you are at your core, and no one can take that truth away from you. This is the true meaning of emotional armor, not a hard shell, but a solid center. It's the integration of all your parts, the light and the dark, into a strong, unified core that holds you steady in the midst of any storm. You may feel pain, but it won't break you. You may be hurt, but you won't lose yourself. Why? Because you're no longer reactive to the world around you. You've become whole, and you live in the depths of your being. But that depth, that power, comes at a price. Loneliness. Not because you will be completely isolated, but because very few people will be able to accompany you on this journey. Most will stay on the surface, too afraid to face the uncomfortable truths that lie beneath. As you continue on your path, you may find that some of those you once walked with are no longer by your side. But understand this, that distancing is not rejection. It is maturation. You are not withdrawing out of pride or ego. You are simply growing into a new phase of your life, one where you no longer fit into the spaces you once occupied. And this brings us to the final point of the journey: consciousness as a shield. It's not brute strength that protects you, it's clarity. In the next section, we will delve into how true protection comes not from building barriers around you, but from developing a deep, unwavering awareness of yourself and the world around you. When you see clearly, nothing has the power to dominate you. Now that you've journeyed with me this far, there is one final truth to embrace. Nothing external can shield you from suffering if you remain unconscious within. The hurtful words, the betrayals, the losses, they will still affect you. They will still sting until you awaken. But awakening is not a magical event. It's a choice made every day. It's the choice to look inward even when it's painful. It's the decision to take full responsibility for your feelings without blaming others, the past, or fate. Jung said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms you." You have spent much of your life resisting the fear of not being enough, the sting of rejection, the emptiness of loneliness, and the heartache of feeling unseen. What did you do with all of that? You hid it away, you silenced it, you tried to control it, you tried to be perfect, to be strong, and in doing so, you wore yourself out. But now you know the truth. True emotional immunity is not about hardness. It's about clarity. It's not about building armor around yourself. It's about expanding your awareness, your consciousness. When you begin to understand your triggers, your patterns, and your wounds, the actions of others no longer have the power to destroy you. You still feel, but you don't drown. You still suffer, but you don't lose yourself. And that changes everything. What protects you now is not the act of shielding yourself from life. It's the decision to dive deep into it. Those who skim the surface are tossed around by every wave. But those who dive into the depths understand the power that lies below. This is where you are headed. When you start living from a place of integration, presence, and acceptance, the world will still try to knock you down, but it will no longer know where to strike. If this message resonates with you, comment below, "I choose awareness." Let's begin a movement of people who refuse to merely survive by pretending to be strong. Instead, let's choose to live in truth. And remember, this is just the beginning. The real transformation happens when you don't stop after the first step. Keep moving forward. Your journey is only just beginning.